Welcome back to another episode of the Game Boy Quest.
Team Canada.
What's up guys, SeeJayAre here, back again with another episode of the Game Boy Quest. It's been a little while, but most of you know that I started my quest for a complete Game Boy collection, I don't know, probably like a year and a half ago. Many of you have helped me out with this quest to collect every single Game Boy game. I started modding Game Boys a little while ago and got a newfound love for the Game Boy games, and being able to play them on a backlit screen really kind of brought to light how good the Game Boy's library was for me. It was just something that I didn't really pay much attention to before, predominantly just because the Game Boy wasn't the greatest looking handheld. I played a bunch when I was a kid, but this, besides the Switch, is the most I play on a handheld. So as always, I've got my two favorite Game Boys here. I mention this almost every time, but this is the modded Game Boy Color, backlit Game Boy Color from Jelly Belly Customs. You can find him on Instagram. And I do these mods myself, the backlit mods, so that's where I play. I quickly wanted to mention while I was doing this Game Boy Quest, I thought it'd be a good time. Big thanks to BitBoy, who sent out two of these BitBoy handhelds. I'm sure most of you know what they are by now. Basically, they're tiny little Game Boys, and it's got 300 games built in. They're NES games that are built in here, not Game Boy games, but good little system. I'm pretty impressed with this. I thought I would mention, they said they would send two over, so I told them that I would mention them in a video, so I thought what better time to do it than the Game Boy Quest. You can grab these guys pretty cheap on Amazon. I think they're like around 30 bucks or so, but pretty happy with this. The boys love playing it, and I love the Game Boy / Super Famicom colorway. Okay, this week's episode of the Game Boy Quest is dedicated to Gamer Alley, my buddy Matt. He went through a phase, as he goes through many phases of collecting certain things of Game Boy games. He got out, so I bought some of the games that I needed for my collection. I think he has since gotten back in and back out 2 or 3 times since then. I think I got these games from him like 6 months ago. I just haven't been able to, well, you guys know I hadn't been making many videos, but apparently I'm back. This is like my 6th or 7th video in 2 weeks, so I'm really enjoying making videos again. So hopefully there'll be a steady stream of content coming forever. I don't know, but shout out to Matt for giving me a good deal on these games. I'll just go through them and I'll cue the footage right here. So one of the best games in the bunch. This is actually a really good bundle of games here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 games. All of them are worth playing from what I remember. I just played them over the past week to familiarize myself with them again. Some of them I hadn't played before, including the first one here. This is Amazing Penguin. Now, Amazing Penguin, I don't think it's a very expensive game. I think it goes for like 20 bucks, 15, 20 bucks. It's kind of hard to explain. It's a little bit like Kicks. You're going around the perimeter. There's lines on the screen. You'll see it up here. You go around the perimeter, and basically you're kicking these black things, which I think are supposed to represent like a groundhog from the artwork here. You play as a penguin, obviously, and you kick the groundhog at these things that are trying to get you. And you're basically trying to go around the perimeter of these squares and clear certain sections at a time. And once you've cleared each section, you move on to the next level. It's kind of hard to explain. Hopefully you can get an idea of what the gameplay is like from the video there, but it's actually a very good game. There's so many games in the Game Boy that feature really simple graphics that turn out to be just a ton of fun. And Amazing Penguin is a Natsume game. Highly recommend that one. Next up is Bonks Adventure. Hopefully that'll focus for you guys. Bonks Adventure, pretty faithful reproduction of the Bonk games. I guess it would be pretty similar to the NES, just in like that, I don't know, monochromatic colors. I've been playing it on the Game Boy Color quite a bit and actually looks pretty good. But gameplay is classic Bonk. Not a lot to say about it. It was like kind of like NEC's mascot for a little while there during the TurboGrafx phase. Yeah, Hudson Soft game. Bonks Adventure. I believe I already had Bonks Revenge, so nice to add that one to the collection. Surprising game here. I actually really enjoyed this one. This is Tiny Toon Adventures Wacky Sports. So this is like a compilation, almost like mini games. You're playing miniaturized versions of a whole bunch of different sports. And then there's also like this other mode where you can play other type games. There's like it's almost like a Game and Watch game where I'm trying to remember which one it was, oil spill or something like that, where you're trying to move the guy around and there's a drip coming. In this game, it's like a pipe that's dripping, leaking, and you've got to move your guy before the drip gets into your. You got to move to catch it in your pan. Hopefully you'll see it here. That's why I put that here, because a lot of these games are so tough to explain. But predominantly the gameplay revolves around little short snippets of popular sports. Today I was playing through baseball. There was a football one. The baseball one, you're basically just at bat, and you've got one inning, so you've got your 3 outs to surpass a certain score. And it's just a pitcher. You're playing as the batter, and you're trying to hit the ball. There's sections. One will be like out, home run, base hit, and you're trying to hit it in that specific area in the outfield. The football one, you were returning a kick, and you had to run through like this. You're trying to run through the field, and just like a real kick return. And then there was tennis. Just basically sports, but kind of dumbed down into a mini game version of that sport, if that makes sense. Next up, a game that it's Micro Machines. A game that initially I wasn't a big fan of, but 2 hours later I found myself still playing it. So this game's really tough at first. You start off in boats, so there's all different kinds of vehicles in this. You start off as boats, which is pretty simple, but then you hop into the first vehicle, and it's extremely tough to control. They almost started off a little bit too hard. I'm sure it scared off a lot of people. But if you stick with it and get used to the controls and get used to kind of feathering the your gas pedal in the game, it's a lot of fun. So basically, it's top-down perspective. If you've played a Micro Machines game, you'll know the formula. A lot of times, you're like the track is like a table in like a kitchen, and there's like salt and there's spoons and stuff. You've got to go around little jumps, and if you fall off the side of the table, you get penalized, time penalty. It's like Mario Kart. It'll pick you back up and put you on the track again. The thing that I thought was really cool was each race is a different vehicle. And these different vehicles actually handle surprisingly different for a Game Boy cart. And if you pass that certain level, you get that vehicle, and it shows up on your little trophy case full of Micro Machines. I thought that was kind of cool how they did that. As someone who was a huge fan of Micro Machines back in the day, that was really, really neat. Really impressed with, like I said, how many different variations and how different the vehicles felt for a little Game Boy game. It's challenging, but definitely worth picking up. This is like a pretty cheap game, $5 or so. Next on the list, Bobble. Not a whole lot to say about this. Bobble, you're trying to trap these little guys, I forget what they're called. I'm sure somebody will let me know in the comments below, in a bubble, and then you have to then go pop that bubble from how I remember, and then you get power-ups and you move on to the next stage. It's classic arcade Bobble action on the Game Boy. Very simple graphics, but the gameplay is there. That's kind of a theme with the Game Boy. Very simple graphics, but still, these games are a ton of fun. Mr. Nuts. I'm trying to remember. This is the one I played a couple weeks ago. Pretty good platformer, decent graphics, kind of more of a slow-moving, kind of more plotted platformer, not super fast, but pretty good animations. You're throwing, from what I remember, like nuts or acorns at enemies. You jump on their heads in typical like Mario style. Decent little platformer. I believe that this one, I think it's a little bit more pricey. It's an ocean game. I just noticed that it doesn't even say USA on the side, so I'm not sure if this one came to the States. There's a couple games here that I got from Matt. Most of them are USA, but this one says UKV. I don't even know what that is. Korean? I don't know. but Mr. Nuts. I'll have to look up and see if that one even came out in North America. Next up, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie. This is not a great game, but still totally worth a couple bucks and worth putting a couple hours into. Pretty good animations. You're just fighting off a bunch of enemies. You can pick through all, I think, 5 of the Power Rangers. The only one that looked different, though, was the white one. The white one was white, and the rest were just kind of monochromatic dark. Obviously, it's a Game Boy. They can't do multiple colors, but I don't know. It's really tight quarters. You're fighting in really confined spaces. It's tough to do like beat 'em ups and stuff on the Game Boy just because it's such a confined space. The one game that does it really well. I really like playing Double Dragon 2 on the Game Boy. But I mean, not a bad game at all. There's far worse on the Game Boy. I mean, that being said, there's not many Game Boys games that there aren't at least some redeeming qualities with. You know how it was back in the day when you got a game, you were stuck with that game. Sometimes that was the only new game you got for a month or two. And it was pre-internet days, so it was hard to find out, you know, whether a game was good or not. And often you just got whatever the cheapest game was. So, you know, sometimes you might be stuck with I'm trying to think of a bad game on the Game Boy. I don't know, some weird puzzle game, Shanghai. Maybe your aunt buys you a Shanghai or Othello game for your birthday and you're stuck with it. Next up, this is a strange little game. Fish Dude. A little more uncommon. I think this guy goes for 30 or 40 bucks from what I remember. I guess the closest thing to describe this to would be, what is it, Feeding Frenzy? That like XBLA game where you're a fish and you're eating other fish. That's essentially what you're doing in Fish Dude. Controls are an issue. It's a really quirky game to control, and it takes a lot of time to get used to. And it's super hard until you get used to the controls. Basically, you're trying to eat smaller fish, and you're trying to avoid being eaten by bigger fish. And once you've eaten a certain amount of fish, you move on to the next level. Not a whole lot more to say about it. It's one of those games that, like, it's very simple. The graphics are simple. I wouldn't say it's a great game, but I just found myself not being able to put it down. I think it's the challenge that really pushes you to just, oh, I only need 3 more fish. I was so close. Try again, you know? So, I mean, that alone makes it a half-decent game if it compels you to play it that much. Interesting one here. This is, I don't know, the region on this says NOE. So I don't know that one either. I'm not sure if this came out. Oh, wait a minute. This looks like German. I could be wrong. I'm not sure if this one came out in North America also. This is Kung Fu Master. Similar to Kung Fu, just kind of expanded on the formula, that real fast-paced moving action. You're kicking guys really quick or punching and they're flying off the screen. That's always extremely satisfying. Again, good little arcade game. Great game for, like, you know, 5-10 minute bursts of gameplay. That's another great thing with the Game Boy. I love carrying around the Game Boy Light by Jelly Belly Customs. It's just in my pocket, or, you know, a lot of times I'll have it in a little case. I used to just use a sock and get my wife to throw it in her purse. And if we're on a road trip somewhere, pulling this out is really, really nice. So this is the perfect type of game if you've got 5 or 10 minutes to spare to just play a little bit of that. So yeah, we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 good games that I added to the collection here. Some a little bit harder to find than others. So big thanks to Gamer Alley for helping me out with this. As I always say, if you've got any spare Game Boy games around that I need for my collection, I'll put a link to the games that I'm still looking for. I'll put my link to my database of the games I have in the description below. And if you think you've got anything that I might need, feel free to contact me. The easiest way to do that is through Instagram, which the link is in the description below. You guys should follow me on Instagram either way. Yeah, and let me know what you want for them. Maybe I can work out a trade or something like that. I can't remember. I think I'm at about 260 Game Boy games, and I totally forget how many are in the collection. But I think there might be 4 or something. from what I remember. Maybe 5. I don't know. There's a ton of games. I'm still finding Game Boy games that I didn't even know existed. So I'm still looking for like a lot of just cheap filler too that I just don't have in the collection. Yeah. Anyways, guys, that's it for this episode of the Game Boy Quest. Stay tuned. I've got I've got at least 4 more videos to do. A few people have helped me out with this collection that I haven't gotten to their video. It's been sitting there. I put a card on top with the name of who sent me these games, so it's ready to go. It will be coming. I apologize for the delay. As you know, I took a little break from making videos there, but I will get to it over the next few months. And yeah, I mean, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys can really help me out right now. I'm trying to get some momentum back to my channel, so hitting that like button, leaving a comment. If you guys could let me know what your favorite Game Boy game is in the comments below, I'd love to know. I'm gonna do a favorite Game Boy game, top 10 Game Boy game collection. I'm gonna do a top 10 Game Boy game video at some point, and then I'm also gonna do a top 10 hidden gem. Because there's a ton of Game Boy games out there that just people don't know about. So my time is running out. My time's flashing. Okay, all right, guys. Thank you so much. Follow me on Instagram. Like, comment, subscribe, and till the next episode.